designed to encourage, empower, and educate real estate professionals by sharing best practices from business leaders that are proven winners. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and this is Calibrate Real Estate. Broadcasting from the Mile High City. Thank you for tuning in to the Calibrate Real Estate podcast on Apple iTunes, on Spotify, and you can watch us over on YouTube. If you check out our Calibrate Real Estate podcast, just Google or drop in YouTube, Calibrate Real Estate Podcast or Kyle Malnati, and you'll get there. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and I'm so excited to share what was one of my most important presentations that I've done this year. It's interesting, I actually did 2 presentations on the same day earlier this year, and you're going to hear one of them. I had shared with a good colleague that of these 2 presentations that I did, both were on a Friday. One I felt like went really, really well, and that's the one you're going to get to hear and see. And the other I didn't feel like went so well. And it was funny, the one that went really well was to a group of 8 and 9-year-olds and maybe some 10-year-olds, the 3rd grade class, my daughter's class of an elementary school. They had me present at Career Day, and I was asked to share some things like what my job is like, what my responsibilities are, what type of education I needed to get to become a real estate professional. And I got to talk about business, which I absolutely love doing. Now, the most fun part of this presentation is going to be the second half of it. Obviously, I'll communicate to the class and I'll share some ideas about why I think that real estate is the profession of choice for me and how I got here, some of my story, which I think might be important for some of you to hear. But what is really, really cool is at the end, the last 7 or 8 minutes of my presentation were dedicated to answering questions from elementary school kids, which I think is really important because elementary school kids, if you have children yourself, or if you've been around children, or even if you've been a child yourself at one point, you know that kids think much simpler. They don't overly complicate things. They are sweet and sincere. They'll also call you out when they think that you're not telling the truth or they feel like something doesn't make sense. You have to really, really boil things down. And so I think this is an important episode to share with my podcast audience because it gets to the heart of what I do. And some of the questions towards the end are really, really deep. The last 3 questions that I got from this class were really important, and I want to highlight in on those. You'll hear my answers after this intro, but I was asked what skills you need to be excellent in real estate. So that was one of the questions. The second question was, do I have fun in my daily exercises as a real estate professional and as a company owner? And the answer to that is yes, but I'll let you listen in. And then finally was, do you make mistakes at work? And that is probably the most profound question. And also, I feel like my best answer, and I couldn't have queued it up any better. I was honestly randomly answering questions. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see all the hands shoot up of this class. It was all 4 of the 3rd grade classes combined into one classroom, and really a lot of fun. I will say from a personal standpoint, one of the most fulfilling presentations I've ever done because it was in front of my daughter's class. She's our oldest. She's very wise, and she knows a lot about what we do because we talk about real estate around the kitchen table. I hope at some point one or many of my 3 children will end up working at Calibrate Real Estate. Maybe they'll be a broker, maybe they'll be in development, maybe they'll be in ops, maybe one of them will be the COO or the CEO of the company, maybe even the CFO. I have a lot of visions of what my kids can be, but at the same time, I'm just really excited for them to step into their own unique talents and gifts and do what they want. I hope that real estate is a part of what they like to do. And I hope that as they reflect upon this, they may be listening to this 20 or 30 years from now. It's my prayer that they might know that I love what I do. I love helping people. I love interacting and encouraging and just being involved in people's lives. Real estate is one of these professions where we intersect, we come into people's lives at such a pivotal moment. It's honestly, it's really stressful for a lot of people when a realtor interacts with someone that isn't used to selling real estate, it's a very complicated, infrequent transaction, and they need a guide. They need someone that's going to be able to help them through the process. So I hope that as you listen in to the third grade class of an elementary school, my daughter's classmates hopefully will make you laugh. You'll hear some funny things. And at the same time, you'll also hear me describe what I do on a daily basis from a perspective of hope and with a lot of energy and with some love sprinkled in there. I just really enjoy communicating with people about what the real estate industry is all about. And that's why I did this podcast. For those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, this may seem a little bit different than other podcast episodes that you'll hear. A lot of times we interview other people that are successful. Well, this was an opportunity for kids that may not know a whole lot about real estate to interview me and ask why it is that I enjoy doing what I do on a daily basis. And hopefully some of these answers, you'll nod your head, you'll smile, and you say, yeah, that's exactly why I got in this industry too. So a little bit different spin on this episode. We'll get back to doing real estate interviews, but I thought that you might enjoy hearing from my daughter's class and my presentation about why I'm a real estate agent, why I started a company, why I do what I love. And there's a lot of purpose in that question why. And that's what kids do. They ask questions. Any one of you that is an aunt or a parent or a cousin of someone that's a little kid, you know, they ask lots of questions and they've got curiosity. And that's what I just love about elementary school age children is they're not afraid to ask. They're not afraid to learn. They're constantly learning. And as adults, I think we need to remember that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to admit you don't know what you're doing. It's okay to admit that there's an industry that you're not as familiar about. And so hopefully this gives you a little bit of a lens into who I am and why I enjoy what I do. So for everybody that helps us produce this podcast, I'd especially love to say thank you to Kayla Davis, our podcast producer. I'd love to say thank you to my daughter, Charlotte. She introduced me to this opportunity to speak at Career Day at her elementary school. And I'd love to say thank you to all of our podcast listeners. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your ratings. Please drop a 5-star rating if you love this podcast. We would certainly love that. And our big area of focus is on Apple Podcasts. So please drop a 5-star rating if you enjoy this. And of course, if you think someone needs to hear this message today, please share it through text message, through email, and obviously on social media. As I love to say, I'm Kyle Malnati, and we will see you around the neighborhood. Bye, everybody, and we'll see you at this elementary school presentation. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Good. Thank you for having me into your class. I know a lot of you, and the ones that I don't know, I hope to get to meet someday in person, okay? One-on-one, right? All right, so I'm Charlotte's dad, and I am a real estate agent. Do you guys know what real estate is? No. Let's take, no, it's okay. I actually like to do just a couple of quick questions. Who thinks they know what real estate is? All right, you.
It's where you sell homes.
That's correct. That's one type of real estate. Go ahead.
It's where you have kind of a commercial or something for the house and have open signs in the house you breed.
Yep, that's correct. How about you back here?
You get people and you show them around the house and
That's good. No, that's very good. Charlotte?
You can sell companies, buildings, houses, tons of stuff.
Now she lives with me, so she knows the answer probably a little bit bigger than some others. That's good. Like Quinn?
Walk around like Chip and JoJo.
Yeah, there you go. That's another good. So real estate, and so I'll answer some questions at the very end. Real estate is a really, really big industry. Your school is on real estate right now. That's owned by the state of Colorado, okay? Your house is owned by someone, whether you rent or whether you own your parents, it's owned by someone. Any grocery store that you go into, King Soopers is real estate. So it's typically looked at as a building, but that actually is not just the only thing that's real estate, it's also the land that goes with the building. And so you can sell or you can lease real estate, and so I own a company that does that. There are 8 people in our company, most of which have what's called a real estate license that allows you to actually work with people to help either buy or sell or rent real estate. So I was asked to just talk about some of the job responsibilities that I have, as well as the education I had to get to become an owner of a company, but also to talk about my career path and how I got to where I am today. So some of the job responsibilities of being a real estate company owner are I pay people to work at my company. And so some people get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Some people don't get paid at all until they actually help someone buy or sell or lease a property. So they can sometimes go months without a paycheck. Sometimes those paychecks are bigger. So there's a lot of risk in that, and that's called earning commission. All right, so some people that work in our company work a very set schedule and they work a specific job set, and then other people work all sorts of different hours for whoever their clients are. Okay, so that's one of the things we do. I help hire everybody that's in the company. And sometimes if someone has to go, that also includes firing, which we don't like to do, but we handle all the personnel decisions within the company. And so that's something that I do also. One of the things that I do for people on a daily basis when I'm working as a real estate broker is I help them decide really, really big things in their life, okay? So families, if they're moving into the state of Colorado, they might not have never been here before and have to explain all the different things about a given area, about schools, about employment, things of that sort. I also work with people who are commercial real estate investors. So these people might be building a new building. I've worked on properties like that before. I've also worked with people that own large apartment buildings. And so I have a lot of different responsibilities, but I really, really enjoy real estate because I get to work with people. That's the biggest reason why I enjoy real estate. I get to do all sorts of different things throughout the day that don't feel like they're all the same activity. So I like to kind of switch from different tasks. And I like to spend a lot of time outside. Even on a day like today when the weather's a little bit cold, I like to be outside and show people around. And so those are some of my daily responsibilities. One of my other responsibilities is I also speak at events like this, both at schools, but then also at industry events where people like to learn about real estate. So I've been asked several times to be a speaker. And the final thing that I do is I help people buy and sell houses. Does anybody remember Reed Walsh, who used to be in your class and moved this summer, right?
Yeah.
So I helped his mom, Taryn, both sell her business, which is in downtown Denver. She owned a stationery company that was downtown Denver. She owned the real estate. I also helped them sell their house, which is on the west side of Homestead, right through the open space. And so that's a good example of that. So that's the type of stuff that I do for people. And I've done it for now 15 years, okay? So one of the other things that I was asked to talk about today is my career path. So I graduated college before I started in real estate, and I studied real estate in college. I started working as an assistant, which means I was working for someone else that was really successful in the industry. And I wanted to learn some things about real estate before I started selling it on my own. And so I worked as an assistant for many years. Then I started being a broker at someone else's company, helping people buy and sell real estate. And then I became a partner, which means I had a small ownership in another company up until just 2 years ago, and then I started my own company. So that's kind of the path of how I got to where I am today, and that's a really short description of a long period of time, right? 15 years is a long period of time to be in one industry. As far as my education, I went to Arapahoe High School. Does anybody know where Arapahoe High School is? So it's right down the street, right down Dry Creek. And I went to Arapahoe High School. Charlotte's mom, my wife Courtney, went to Cherry Creek High School. I know you guys know where that is too. And then we both went to the University of Wyoming. Does anyone know where Wyoming is? Where is it? It touches our state, but what direction is it? Go ahead.
North?
Yes, it's directly north. So it's about 2 hours north of here, and I studied finance. Finance is a really fancy word for math and money, right? So I use math in my business every single day. Who likes math? Can you imagine doing it every single day? No? Well, what might be important about math is it helps you count things. It helps you count money, but it also helps you count different things within the business. And so I studied in college for a long time to get my degree in finance, and it's something that I use every single day. After college, I still continue to educate myself. So I had to get what's called a real estate license. I had to study for months to get a real estate license. Once I got my real estate license, I'm required to do what's called continuing education every year. So that way I can continue to stay smart about my industry and also any things that change in the industry. On a daily basis, we use contracts. Contracts are things that help people do things together. So people sign an agreement so that they can then go purchase their house or sell a property. And then in 2014, so about 5 years ago, I became what's called an employing broker. And an employing broker is a very special designation that you have to go through lots of different steps, a 3-day class, and you've got to demonstrate a certain amount of knowledge in the real estate industry. So that's a little bit about my education. I was also told that I can answer some questions. So do you guys have any questions for me today? All right, so go ahead.
I have two. So
Two?
Why did you want to be in real estate? Why did you want to be in real estate?
Sure, I wanted to be in real estate because I do like math, but I also, sometimes math can be a little bit funny because sometimes math subjects are really hard to understand because you're not seeing anything in front of you. So real estate gives me an ability to do math, but to also see people and see buildings and properties. So what's your second question?
And also, if you weren't able to be in real estate, would you go to school?
You know, that's interesting, and I was told that I might get asked that question. So I was kind of thinking about it. So I love being a business owner. So I really have never worked for a big company. I've always worked for local companies, whether it was in real estate or in other things. And so I would probably own my own shop. At one point I worked at Starbucks. This is a long time ago when I was in high school. I like to make coffee for people and make people happy as they're taking their coffee wherever they're going. So I'd probably own like a coffee shop or maybe a bakery. But I would probably be doing something where I could see people quickly throughout the day and make them feel happy. So probably maybe a coffee shop owner or maybe a landscaping company. I don't know. But I'm glad I can be a real estate agent. Go ahead.
How many years of college did you need to do this job?
That's a great question. So how many years of college that I went to? The answer is 4. And I graduated in 4 years. Some degrees you have to take longer, but the answer to your question is how many years do you have to go to have my job? The answer is 0. You can actually go right into real estate right after high school. You don't have to have any type of degrees or diplomas or anything like that, but you do have to pass a real estate license exam, which typically takes about 2 to 3 months to study for. Go ahead. That's okay, I'll come back to you, okay? Brooklyn.
How long have you had this job?
I have been working in real estate for 15 years, but I've been an owner of a company for just over 2 years. So that's kind of a new thing for me, even though I still sell real estate every day. Riley.
How long are you at work each day?
Oh, that's a good question. So I work pretty much every day, Saturdays and Sundays included. But I get to be free with when I actually go into the office. But generally our office is open from about 8:30, just after you guys get to school. And our office is open till about 5:30 or 6 every night. So I probably work 60 to 70 hours a week. Go ahead.
How many like properties do you sell in a year?
That's a great question. So I personally sell about 20 to 25 properties a year, which totals typically around $25 million worth of real estate a year. So the type of real estate that I do is a little bit more expensive. Our company has sold about 40 properties this year.
And how much do you get paid on a daily basis?
You know what? I don't get paid on a daily basis. That's actually a great question. So I, as a business owner, I don't get a salary. The only way I get paid is by helping people buy and sell real estate, and then also when our brokers have a successful sale, I'll also get paid off of that. But I don't actually have a salary, so I go to work for sometimes weeks without getting paid. Go ahead.
If you could play sports, what would you?
You know, I love lacrosse. I still coach lacrosse to this day. I've played lacrosse ever since I was 7 years old. I grew up in a state called Maryland. And lacrosse is really, really popular, and I played lacrosse at Arapahoe High School and at Wyoming. So I would say if I could professionally play lacrosse, that would be really cool. I also like swimming. Go ahead, you, the gentleman there with the hawk sticker.
Oh yeah. How many years have you been in this job?
So 2 years as a business owner, and then 15 years total ever since I graduated college.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be?
You know, that's a really interesting question. So when I was about your age, actually probably 1 year younger, because you guys are all about 9 years old, right? 8, 9 maybe, 8 or 9. So when I was 7, my birthday party was in a big, tall building near downtown where my dad worked, and he worked in finance. It was a different type of finance, but it was kind of like in a bank. So I've always been really, really interested in being a business person. So I've always wanted to do this, and like I said, I enjoy owning a business as well. You have questions? Okay. Am I doing okay on time?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know if we need to go ahead.
I forgot.
I can come back to you. Do you remember yours? Okay.
While you were working at Starbucks, did you work in Colorado?
Yes, I actually worked at the Starbucks that's right across the street from Arapahoe High School. So just right down the street here. That was a job that I had for 2 years in high school. Charlotte.
How many places have you lived?
How many places have I lived? Okay, so I've lived in the state of Virginia, I've lived in Maryland, I've lived in Colorado, and I've lived in Wyoming. So is that 4?
Yes.
I've lived in 4 different states, different cities within each, but I lived in 4 places. Go ahead.
What is your company's name?
That's a great question. So my company is called Calibrate Real Estate. Do you guys know what the word calibrate means?
No.
Does anyone want to take a guess? Go ahead.
I think you like. Oh, I didn't.
Go ahead, Maggie. It's kind of a tricky word. Not a lot of people hear that word.
It's almost like solving something, like figuring out an application.
Yeah, so that is actually a very good answer. So calibrate is used in science, and it means to make adjustments. So when a tool or some sort of measurement is a little bit off, we're going to make a correction to get it to the right result that we want. So yes, that's a very, very good answer. All right, other questions? Go ahead.
Why did you want to be in this job?
Why did I want to be in this job? So I like it because I get to solve problems every day. And people come to me typically with very, very big things that they want to do. So moving a whole family, whether you're moving from one different town to a new town, or you're even just moving somewhere else within the neighborhood, it causes a lot of stress and worry and problems. And so typically people hire me to make that a lot easier, right? And so a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm on the phone pretty much all day long helping solve things for people while they're at work, because they need to have money to afford buying the property that they buy. So I really enjoy solving problems. Do you remember, Maggie? Okay, go ahead.
Are you still in school now?
No, I don't go to school anymore, but I do study on occasion. And when I study, it's typically for things like what's called continuing education classes. And so I typically go to 1 or 2 of those every year to make sure that I'm staying as smart as I can in the real estate industry. Thank you.
Do you build like stuff? Like if someone needs a building, do you build stuff?
That's a great question. I don't personally build things, and most people are very happy about that because I'm not super handy, but most of my clients do. So many of my clients that own what's called commercial real estate, which is, commercial real estate is just a fancy word for business real estate, right? It's not where someone lives as their house, it's more of a business. They'll build things, and I've worked with people who are really big builders. It's really cool. Go ahead.
What skills do you need to be in this job?
That's a wonderful question. So what skills do I need to be in this job? You've got to be smart. You've got to also, instead of just being smart though, you've got to be committed to continuing to learn. So sometimes people are smart but don't continue to learn. You definitely have to have math skills. You've got to be a good communicator. You've got to be able to talk to people. You also have to know your directions. Now we all have GPS on our phones and things of that sort, but the more efficient you can get around the city, I drive all over the place every single day. Those are some skills that I need. The other thing too is just having, not only being a good communicator, but also being a very good emotional person for other people, because a lot of times people will come to me with some big problems, both my coworkers, but then also some of my clients, and I've got to be there to listen to them, almost like a counselor.
I think we have time for maybe one more.
Okay, who hasn't had a chance to ask a question? Ben, I think I answered a question.
Oh yeah.
Okay, how about, can I do these 2?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll go you first and then you next and we'll be
Do
done.
you think your job is fun?
I love my job. I really enjoy getting out and seeing lots of people, and also architecture and buildings are very interesting. So yeah, I do love my job.
Did you ever do mistakes in your job?
I do mistakes all the time. Now, it's not something that I am happy to do, so the most important thing is we want to make sure we correct our mistakes. But adults make mistakes every single day, and the best thing that I have learned throughout my career is when you make a mistake, admit it quickly and be a part of the solution. That's something I'm constantly sharing with my kids and my coworkers, is that you want to be a part of the solution when you make a mistake. So great questions, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.